Okay, so Andreas wants to know how to play Bloody Foreheads game. So Bloody Foreheads game has a few concepts. First one is this is working on pulling and shooting, so that action of pulling your tip back and shooting it forward. And it narrows the scope of what's allowed with a few simple rules. The first rule is that the only valid target is the forehead or the mask in general, so anywhere on the helmet basically. But we focus it at the forehead because that's kind of where you end up hitting most of the time. The other part is you have to do a pulling before you're allowed to strike the forehead. So for instance, the game will start with us binding here with our tips. We don't want to be too close. If you're too close, this is going to be a little bit tough to work. You need to come out and bind with your opponent. If you're doing this out here, the game doesn't start until you get a pulling, or it starts with a bind. So this doesn't really work if you're hiding your tip. So you have to engage the blade in a bind. You can try pushing, you can do whatever you want in the bind. But what I want to do here is I want to pull his blade out of the way, backward towards me, so that I can step in and attack his head. I can do this directly on the same side of the bind, so I pull back here and I can strike his head, or I can do a disengage to the other side. So 3 basic disengages would be going over, pull, and shoot on this side. I can go under, pull, and shoot on that side, or I can pull back to my plow guard, shoot back out, pull, and tag him. So we have a pulling before we can attack the forehead. We have 3 types of disengages that we can use to switch sides for this. There's other ways to disengage, obviously, but then you're hiding your tip away too for the most part. So this keeps it in the bind. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing that we'll do is when I come for a pulling action and go to strike his head, all Chris needs to do to defend that is to wind into a hanger. So if I pull on this side here, he winds up into a hanger. When I shoot, I connect with his blade. He wants to make sure he's off to his side here so that I can't hit him. But that's all he really has to do. That's that there. Now he can't really get a pulling from this position on me. So all this did is defend, and now we end up returning to something like this, right? It could happen in a bunch of different ways. I might switch sides and pull on this side, and he has to react by hanging on that side so he can cover himself. It is possible if he does the hang wrong. So if he winds himself in the wrong place, I can still hit him here. So he has to hang and catch that properly. So all that would be valid hitting the head that way. The better way to do it, and I'll have you show this. So if Chris goes to pull my blade, so he pulls my blade and now he's going to strike straight towards me. Yeah, so return to the blade. So when he shoots, what I can do is I can counter pull him and then shoot at him. And this can happen back and forth. He realizes this has happened, and as I shoot, yeah, you could do that, or come back to the bind, pull across your body and then counter me. So this really is there's 2 real ways to counter that pulling and shooting. The first one, hanging, but it doesn't really get you an immediate counterattack. The second one is patience, and then waiting to feel that pull, and when they leave the pull to shoot, you have to sidestep and get your head out of the way and pull counter to that. So again, show you here, maybe I disengage, come around, and I pull here. No, don't hang for it. Chris feels the pull on his blade and he's patient, knowing that all he has to do is sidestep to his left and pull me across and take me out there, and then he's got a shot, yeah. And the quickest way is always to go immediately straight to the forehead, but it doesn't discount going around like Chris just did. So if we show that again here, if I come around and pull his weapon, when I shoot at him, he's going to pull out of the way and he can go cut straight to my head like this, or after I pulled here, when he takes me out, he could circle around to the other side and maybe I hang on the wrong side or whatever, that sort of thing. So you can go around as long as it's going toward the head. The helmet is the only valid target. There are a few other ways that you can go in this following from the hanger. So we'll try and show that one. So if I pull this side, he hangs. Now he's got this hanger here that I can't really, like, no matter how I pull his sword, I'm not going to get a shot at his head because his arms are in the way, right? But what I can do is counter hang and pull this across my body here to the other side. Now I can thrust him up through to the face here. And that's about the only way I'm going to hit him with this configuration. But all he has to do is counter pull. So if we're in this situation again, if I whine and he feels me leaving, he counter pulls, no, whines to thrust. Yeah, and come up right up underneath there. Oh. Yeah, that'll be the only avenue that you have. Okay. Now, there is one other avenue, and that's to leave the blade when I hang and come around to cut, right? So, we try that again. So, what did I do? I pulled here. Let's do it the other side. Because that's the way we just did it again. Otherwise, it'll be confusing. So I pull this way, and I'm about to whine and shoot, so he counter pulls me. Now if he leaves, since he pulled me, he can hit me here. I can come around and check him here, and then, no, I've done the pulling, so now I'm the one who can counter to the head here. And about the only way to get around a high hanger like this one is to do a scalp cut, right? So, lots of different ways that you could do this. So there's also two crooked cuts that you could use in this game. So if we come in here, instead of me stepping and pulling towards my shoulder, back up towards my shoulder, like almost toward break window kind of thing, instead of doing it this way, what I'm going to do, is I'm going to turn crooked and crump him downward. So essentially put him in fool, and I've got an overbind here, and now I can cut straight towards his face, just like normal. Or I could cut to the other side or whatever, right? Or I could squint, hit, or squint and thrust, that sort of thing. If one other case where you can end up with a crooked cut is if we go right back to the beginning scenario. If I pull here as per normal or crooked cut, and I cut out towards Chris and he hangs. Now Chris can use a crooked cut, a high crooked cut here, to do a crooked cut and cut right back at me. So that is technically counts as a pulling. So you can use the pulling back towards your shoulder here. You can do an inverted pull towards your hip, almost like a paddle, or you could crooked cut down or all the way to the other side, and those all count as pullings. So if let's see, if I come, or let's have you pull, and then you come to shoot, so I catch you here. If I decide to crooked cut you here, but instead of going here and cutting from there, if I come all the way around this way, now I could come up. So I could pull you all the way into barrier. Now, of course, the problem there is as soon as I pull you into barrier, as soon as I leave, you can just come into barrier. No, just come into barrier across to take me out, and now you have right away again. So one thing we haven't said is, if I do a pulling, it erases Chris's pulling. So if we're here, if Chris pulls me and then he shoots, I pull him back over here. Now Chris can't come and attack me anymore because I am the last one to pull. So it's my next action is the only one that counts. And I don't get to like fence and move around and then try to attack. It's my next action that has to be the strike. So this is why you can't do a whole bunch of tricky stuff with this. Like I couldn't pull you here and then be like, and then hit you in the head. That's not. It's a one tempo, clear and shoot. And you can go to either side of the head in each quadrant or whatever if you can hit it. But yeah. So one more disengage. If Chris pulls and then shoots and I hang against it here, the other way I can disengage here, and it's a little chancy, is for me to come around his sword to pull and then shoot here. So it's a rose play, yeah. That was pretty close. We're pretty close there. But sometimes it's just the right distance where you can flip around like that. So essentially what you're doing is from a hanger, instead of waiting for him to leave that hanger or crooked cutting to the other side, I'm going to use the pommel wind to just take my blade and pull him down towards my hip. So I'll be here, I take a pommel grip, and I just circle around to the other side and then shoot. All right, have fun playing bloody foreheads.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That was a circle. No circles. See, that was the double yanking.
Yeah.
They both pulled each other away.
Yeah. Go soft in the body. Oh, I had to test it.
It's only the forehead counts, or the mask. There you go.